Welcome to the You Decide podcast. I'm Dr. Tiffany. We're going to bring you stories of ordinary people who have chosen to live an extraordinary life, outside of their comfort zones and into confidence, possibility, and certainty. You are just one decision away from living your most aligned life, because let's get real, that's what we all want. Thank you for listening to the You Decide podcast. Today you have me. We're going to talk about pivoting. As I've been prepping for my live event turned virtual on Thursday, I've been thinking a lot about the chaos in this time. And the chaos right now is just different than it was in the past. Of course, some people may think or know or experience it to be extreme, and some people think it to be more enjoyable than life was. And so the foundation of life, I believe, or the foundation of where we're going in life is awareness. And in these times of chaos, we move from a busy, not present society, chasing our tails, the hamster wheel, to being home, being stuck home, and not sure we want to be with ourselves in that moment. Is it uncomfortable to be in the quiet? Is it uncomfortable to be with our own thoughts when we could be busy and not listening to that part of our mind or our body or our gut? Now we're coming into a place that we're exposed to it more. I was going to say forced. We're not forced to see it or hear it or feel it, but we're exposed. And because we're home and we don't have a crazy schedule that we can hide behind, how are we going to do this? How can we pivot if we need to? How do we know if we need to pivot? And when I say pivot, this is a time of full reset, of maybe taking inventory of your life, of your relationships, of your work, of your family, and deciding if it's where you want to go. Does it all feel good? And if it doesn't, what isn't feeling good? What isn't working? And then how can we just shift a little bit? But the challenge is we're historically not present. And now all of a sudden we're maybe hearing things and feeling things that we don't really like. Like, now that I'm home, now that I'm not working, or now that I'm home working, I like this better. Or I really don't like this at all. Maybe my pivot is looking for a different job. How about in relationships? Maybe your marriage was on the rocks and now you're in the house for 4 to 6 weeks. You're going to come together or you're going to drift apart. And awareness and presence gets you to the point of like, where do I want to go with this relationship? Is this a top value of mine? And what am I willing to do and sacrifice to get it to where I need to go or to shift ways? How about money? Because we're busy and because we weren't present and because our schedule was created for us, so much is being consumed, aka paid for out of your pocketbook. And so now when you're home, are you looking at your money differently? Are you looking at your budget? Are you maybe taking inventory of what was working and what wasn't working and what you like of it and what you don't? So that when life starts to swing again and schedules start to increase again, how have you pivoted? How have you learned something from this time of reset to do different next time? What do you want to keep in your life? Who do you want to keep in your life? How do you want to think? How were you thinking? And what do you want to take with you to continue to make an impact? I see so many people's values shifting, priorities for sure shifting. And so I urge that awareness and presence needs to start. Because as we are so busy, we didn't have time to evaluate our life or our relationships or our money or our schedule or our job or our anything. We were just going through the motions. At the end of every day and week and month, we may look back and be like, wow, I don't think I got anything accomplished. Or, that didn't really feel good, but I feel like I've just had to be there and had to do this. And so how can we take this situation and create more intention so that when the world starts to spin again, if you've pivoted, the hard work is done. Now you get to see opportunity and create what you want to create now that you had a little bit of time to figure out what feels right. And so if we don't evaluate our values or priorities, and if we don't evaluate them often, I believe peeking at them every 90 days is important, because when we go through a life event, it may completely change our values and priorities. Maybe forever, but maybe it only changes it for a month or 3 months. We don't know at that time. But if health has always been a top value, and now we're struggling with money and relationships, it may shift a little bit. It doesn't mean it's not your top value, but maybe you tweak that so your relationship with your partner is better and that person becomes your top priority. Maybe the spiritual part of health needs to increase and improve because the physical is strong, it's habitual, it's creating what it needs to create already. And so maybe we just need a little bit of a rebalance or a reshift. I don't think there's really any such thing as balance, but maybe the scales are weighted too much from left to right, and we just need to tweak a few things. The thing is, if we don't ever take inventory, we don't even know what's off. We don't know that trigger that is creating the weight of the scales to be so high on one side and so low on another. So taking inventory of your values, what makes you tick, is pivotal. No pun intended. It's pivotal to know what action you take next. Because as your priorities and values change, your priorities are going to be created from your values. The top value is anything that you will say yes to as your top value, you will say no to below if there's an opportunity. Okay? It doesn't mean you don't have, let's just say fun is one of your priorities, your top 5, okay? Fun and social is 4 and 5. Health and relationships is 1 and 2. If there's going to be an option between exercising that day or going out for happy hour, you might choose both, but we know which one we're going to do first, right? If it's date night and basketball game night and social hour after, you're going to make sure that your relationship with your partner is priority over fun and social. Doesn't mean they can't combine, but it's all about intention. Intention and awareness creates the ability to pivot if you need to pivot. Pivoting doesn't mean changing your whole course of action. It doesn't mean flying the coop. It doesn't mean throwing both hands up in the air and say, nah, I'm done with this. It doesn't have to mean anything dramatic or drastic. But when something doesn't feel right, take inventory of what it is, how you've been living, how you've been thinking, what you've been saying, doing, and thinking. Evaluate it. See if it's still right for right now. Because in this chaos, uncertainty, fear, everything that's going on right now, it is really, really easy to avoid it, to be numb to it, to maybe have one more glass of wine just so you don't think about it, to maybe read that romance book when you really needed to dig into a conversation with your spouse at that moment. That is having lack of intention, lack of awareness, and the inability to shift then is inevitable. So the word today is pivot. Be open to pivoting in any course of your life, at any moment. But this one calls for more presence, more attention to how you're feeling, more awareness, and then living with more intention to pivot, to have the courage to pivot and communicate when you feel the need. I can't wait for what happens through this massive reset. As much heartbreak as there is going to be mass innovation and success and connection in a much different way than we ever imagined. And so let's be part of it. Let's find ourselves in the opportunity to create something different. Let's put ourselves in the equation to be fully responsible for being the best we can be, using our gifts and being in our genius to shift when we need to, so that our kids and our family can see that shifting is an okay thing. Shift to more opportunity, shift to more ease. That's all we need to do. As easy as that is, it might not be simple. Pivoting is easy. Stopping and starting is not easy. On Thursday, I have an event. This is what I'm going to be talking about. How to pivot, how to shift values and priorities when you need to. What beliefs are in your way? What are those things that you keep hearing and feeling and seeing that you tell yourself that you don't believe in yourself to pivot, to shift? And then how can we create a plan? How can we plan for innovation and opportunity and being the light and being a leader in our family and within ourselves and within every area of our life? How can we be that? First, show up every day, be aware, be intentional, and be present. Thank you guys. I love you all.
Thank you so much for listening and being willing to go all in. Ditch the excuses and the comfort zones and make a decision that nothing can stop you. You can find the show notes below, and I'd love for you to share, subscribe, and rate this podcast, but only if you love it.